morning and welcome to today's Vibe webinar on the latest feature, Azure Single Sign-On. As you can see on screen there, my name is Aroha Ayest and I'm the Customer Success Lead here at Vibe. Please note that this webinar is being recorded, so I'm just going to ask everyone right now to pop off your webcam if you haven't already and mute your mic just through this first portion of the webinar. And then we can turn them back on at the end if you've got any questions or feedback on what I share with you today. But feel free to use your chat as well if you'd like to post any questions.
Yes, thank you.
Great. So I'm going to set the scene now. During the next few minutes, I'll give you a brief overview of single sign-on benefits. Run through the 3 easy steps for activating single sign-on, or SSO as I'll refer to it for the rest of the webinar, and show you what logging in will look like once it's activated. Just check everything's ready to go. I'll also show you what's new in the user manager area where you currently create your user logins, and what we are doing with multi-factor authentication for anyone who doesn't have access to Microsoft Azure. And as I mentioned, finally at the end of the session, we'll just have the floor open, so you are welcome to chat with our senior developer, Steve Ngapua, who's on the line as well, for those more technical questions that I'm sure he'll be able to answer for you. If we run out of time, we will follow up via email as well. So why SSO? Why would you have it? Why do you need it? Why have we put this out there for you? I've got 5 of the top SSO benefits on screen, but really to summarise, single sign-on reduces the security risks. It automatically signs you in, which quite often in trainings which I provide to both new and existing customers, password fatigue, another password to remember, another account to have to log in with. So it's going to automatically sign you in when you're using your workplace devices to access Vibe. And it just makes user management much more streamlined. All the control over who has access to your Vibe portal will be managed by your IT team or whoever is managing your Azure groupings and who belongs to them. If somebody leaves the organisation, when their Microsoft account is removed, the access to the Vibe portal will also be removed at the same time. So activating SSO will keep IT happy, wink, wink, and make it much easier for you to get on with creating content for your workplace digital signage. Now the activate, how do you get started with single sign-on? How does it all work? Well, there's 3 easy steps, as you can see on screen here. So step 1 and step 2 are all done by IT. First up in the Azure portal, you're setting up groups to define which users go into each group. Step 2 is all about creating an app so that you can connect the groupings and users to Vibe. And step 3, once you've got step 1 and 2 complete, you're then going to map, which I can demo for you today. And on the right hand side, you can see SSO activated. You'll see an option to log in with your Microsoft account. So 3 easy steps to activate SSO, with the first 2 being primarily with your IT team to action. Now, I'm not going to go through every step in detail, but I did want to highlight that we do have an article. I'll just go back a step. So in the knowledge base, okay, support.vibe.fyi, we have a hardware section. And within the data integration category, you'll see the article that details those activation steps for single sign-on. As you work through each one and complete, you'll get closer to being able to log in with your Microsoft account. And as I mentioned before, managing all of the users who you'd like to access the portal will all be done within Azure moving forward. So we go from, once we've completed steps 1 to 3, you go from having a form like this, which we've all become familiar with, to a button like this. When you select that button, it'll do the checks it needs to do to make sure that you do belong to the group or are able to access Vibe. If you're not, there will be an alert on screen to let you know that you don't belong to the right groups. And obviously, if you are in one of the groups that has been connected to Vibe, you'll be able to log in and carry on as you would, as you do now. And just moving on to the next part. So once all of those steps are completed, I'll just make sure that this is all done. I'm now in the admin console. So I've got this preloaded, but this is where I am. I've moved into the admin area in a separate tab, and you can see that my login that I used to get into the portal has been automatically transferred, so I can use that same Microsoft login now, single sign-on to access both the portal and the admin console if I have the admin level permissions. I just want to go to step 3 and really just to highlight this step here. So once you've been through Azure, set up the necessary steps there. With step 3, what's new in the admin console is this option to map your Azure groups to your Vibe groups. So I'll go into the accounts area under groups and roles, and let's have a look at user groups. So user groups are the people that can get to the portal only. They have no access to the admin area at all. So let's use HR as an example. This is a group that was pre-existing in my Vibe area. Now what I'll be able to do is once I've opened up that group, I'll see this new option to map to an Azure group. So that's a really important step that needs to be carried out. You'll be able to see all the different groups that have been set up in Azure and map to the right one. Let's have a look at the health and safety team. Make sure we've got a related group in Azure. Make that connection between Vibe and Azure for single sign-on, and it will be the same with your admin level groups as well. So I've got one here for IT. On the right-hand side, I just need to find the group that maps, and that group has all the users that will be allowed to access Vibe. Last one, comms team. I can see here, admin comms, so I go ahead and select that. Obviously, the names of your groups from within Azure and what you see in this drop-down will differ from what I'm demoing today, but it's more so to cover that there is a step where you need to map your groups. Okay. And once that's all done, as I mentioned, your login page will go from displaying the form to a single button, and you'll be able to log in that first time. So I'll just log out and share that again with you. Okay, so your IT team will need to log in first. And once they've done that, that will finalize everything. You'll be able to log in, and you won't need to do that again for another 30 days. So you will need to re-log into your Microsoft account every 30 days as an extra layer of protection, but it just means that within that time frame, you'll be able to access your portal URL, whatever it is for your organization, and it will pick up that Microsoft account login automatically, and you'll go straight through to being able to manage your content in your portal. Nice and easy. So really, when you're loading up your portal URL moving forward, you should be automatically directed straight into this area without having to put in any login details manually. Once all of the mapping's done and people start to log in with their Microsoft account, you will notice that in the user area, so if you have existing logins and someone logs in with their Microsoft account that has the same email, their status will change from a portal, a Vibe login to an SSO user, a single sign-on user, and you'll be able to see that status updated against their name as they switch over. So if you do notice that anyone hasn't yet switched over, you can either come in here and manually remove their access, take them out, you know, and fully use Microsoft and Azure to control that, or just give them a prompt to use their Microsoft login so that their SSO users details are activated and they can now move forward, have that much more streamlined way of logging in. But that status will help you to see who's currently using their Microsoft login.
Is there any restrictions on the amount we can give them access?
So once they've logged in and been assigned to a group, are you asking about restrictions for their access here? Yes. So that's all the same. Once they're connected and logged in, we do have permission control. So I'll show you, for example, in the playlist area, if I was to create a new playlist, let's say this is for the sales room, for example, down here, I can still apply permissions. I can still put the group, you know, I can still define which user groups or users have access. I would look at probably setting up groups so that you can clearly define the areas that each group can have access to. From the front end as well with slides, you do have permissions and they will still come into play. So because of that mapping that's done, if you can also use permissions to show and hide content as well. So that, yes, absolutely, permissions can still be put in, and so we can work with you. If there's specific restrictions you'd like to put in place for users, we can work with you to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Activating SSO is simple. It's available now. You do have access to start work on these 3 steps, and we've had that rolled out, haven't we, Steve? So really, it comes down to your plan that you're on. On there. So I'll just actually bring up our website, Vibe.fyi. And on the pricing page, which is up in the top bar, you'll be able to, depending on your plan, so it's automatically available to customers on the growth and enterprise plans. Anyone on the starter plan can add on. It's the same, it's considered the same as a data integration. So if you're on the starter plan, you can add on single sign-on. If you're on growth or enterprise, it's automatically available and ready to activate now. Which is exciting. So you'll see there with the ticks, this one here. And you can always check in with us just to confirm your plan if you're not sure, before you get going with the activation steps.
Yeah. Just in case if we need to upgrade the plan to enterprise, if we are on standard and we need to upgrade for the enterprise, can't we do it by ourselves by just logging into our account? Don't we get access to see all those details?
Oh, currently, if you were wanting to upgrade from, say, starter, the next tier would be growth. That would be something that we work with you to put in place. So there's no inbuilt sort of upgrade function in the portal at this stage. You just reach out to our support team and we would activate that for you.
All right.
Yes. So I have another slide here which talks about what's in the works. So we understand that not everybody would be able to leverage single sign-on, perhaps. So we are working on multi-factor authentication, where you can log in with your existing Vibe account and use Google Authenticator to just add that extra layer of protection. And we're looking at releasing that later in the year, whereas single sign-on is available now.